Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest, Dr. Joanny Liu. Dr. Joanny is an international best-selling author of Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game, and she's the founder of Extraordinary Sports Medicine, where she helps athletes reverse their injuries, get them back in the game they love, and improve the quality of their lives. Welcome, Dr. Joanny.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I'm so glad to be back on your show and to help your audience to learn more about how to get well and back in the game.
I think the last time we talked a lot about concussions. And one thing that I think is really important when it comes to athletes and your role as a sports medicine doctor is you actually created a formula called Flow. And it really resonated with me because it talks about the whole person or the whole athlete. So I would really appreciate it if you could first tell me what FLOW stands for, and then let's go ahead and explore the FLOW model a little bit more.
Okay, well, flow, as you know, is spelled F-L-O-W. And in my case, I discovered inside my clinic while I was practicing that over the years, there really is a method and a madness to the way I do things. There really is a process. And I discovered that F stands for freedom because that is the end result that we all want. We want more freedom in order to choose how we're going to live, how we're going to have fun, how we're going to make our choices, because without our choices, without having that freedom to make choices, then we don't have a life, really. So it's really important that the end result is always freedom. The L stands for learning. Learning enables you to move forward. Okay, you just can't stand still or sit still because you really need to be able to move forward in your life. That is a real basis of the formula that I have. Optimism. You know, let's face it. Without optimism, without hope, you would never achieve anything. Pessimists do not achieve things. I mean, let's face it. In order to be an achiever, in order to accomplish anything, and that includes getting your health back, maintaining your health, you've got to have optimism, you've got to have hope. And W stands for wisdom. Wisdom is about knowing yourself. Wisdom is about knowing who you are. Wisdom comes from self-knowledge, which leads to more optimism. In fact, when you have that wisdom and that optimism, you have self-confidence. And that is, above all else, the secret to becoming well and to be keeping well.
I think that really is a powerful model, the flow model. And I'm thinking about athletes because an athlete, you know, think about it. They have to have a sound body and they have to constantly be thinking about the game and how are they going to improve their performance. And they're under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. So when you work with athletes in your practice, what is it? How do you work with them? Let's say that they don't have any specific health issues, because obviously sports is also a mental game. But how do you work with them to help them prepare to be the best they can be?
Well, even if they don't come to me with specific physical issues, I'd still put them through a diagnostic process which gives me a mental, psychological profile as well as a physical profile, because that's really the most important part, is their psychological state. So what I would do is run them through a Q&A. That's the only testing that we do in Chinese medicine, in fact. However, how I do it is that I get through a very logical set of questions, which gives me the exact profile that I want, and then we discuss it, and I describe it to them. It's described in Chinese medical terms, but it's all explained. And the thing is that I find that my clients are often nodding their heads in agreement because they finally understand what's going on in their lives. So the thing is even if they're not coming to me with very specific issues, it's very important to be able to point out their strengths as well as their weaknesses. And of course, we focus on how to strengthen those weaknesses and get them up and running as soon as possible, because the self-confidence part is monumental, and it's monumental for everyone, not just for athletes. Athletes, of course, if they're performing in the public domain, then all their mistakes are, well documented, and everybody bugs them about it, and even the press might even interview them about mistakes that they make. But the thing is that I want to emphasize, once we start working with each other, is to start focusing on the strengths that they have in order to overcome the weaknesses. And that is the most important part of the therapy, of the therapeutic part of the things that we do together.
I think that's really interesting that you talk about the strengths and the weaknesses. Do you find that often an athlete gets, because they're bombarded by, the world watching them and their mistakes are emphasized, that sometimes their strengths or their wins are underestimated or devalued and they don't claim them?
Yeah, absolutely. I find that even the most successful people, that they disregard their strengths and their accomplishments more often than they will, dispatch with their weaknesses. I think it's because of the emphasis. Even when we're growing up, we're told not to brag. We're told not to think too much or too highly of ourselves. To me, it's not really the same thing as narcissism. And being narcissistic is a negative thing. It really is about being selfish in a negative way. But I want to teach my clients, my athletes, my students to be selfish in a very positive way, which is about strengthening their resolve, belief in themselves. Because the thing is that nobody else is really going to believe in us as much as we should be believing in ourselves. And when we don't believe in ourselves, then we definitely are leaving a lot behind. And so what I do with my clients is I don't tell them how great they are. I have exercises, types of work that they can use, that they do in front of me, so that they can see their own strengths without me actually telling them what those strengths are to begin with. And then they show themselves how they use those strengths in order to achieve a particular or a set of accomplishments that they are proud of. And so these things then come up as constant reminders, because they actually start seeing a pattern of how they do things, of how they use their strengths as we work through these exercises, because of course it's not just a one-off process. They get to work on these things over and over again for, let's say, even several weeks. And then as they work through these things, they start seeing these patterns, and they start realizing, hey, I really am good at this stuff after all. And the self-confidence just grows and it grows and it grows. And Absolutely. The goal for me, for them, is for all this wonderful stuff to be integrated into their minds, into their psyche, that so that it's good and it's strong, and they can go back whenever they have self-doubts, and they can see for themselves because they found it themselves. It's not me again telling them, because we can't give somebody self-confidence. Everybody has self-confidence. So I'm just helping people to dig that up in their own minds, and they see it for themselves. And it's so powerful when you see them transforming right in front of my eyes. Oh, it's the most wonderful thing when the light bulbs go off. It's so wonderful.
Well, self-confidence has to be one of the most powerful tools in our arsenal. And you talk about the O, or optimism, in the flow. So to be stronger emotionally and physically, how does the optimism factor into the physical aspects of optimism?
Well, it really comes down to not focusing on the negative things that are happening in your life. I mean, hopefully, the greatest achievers always have goals. So for one thing, we should be setting goals. And an optimistic person is going to be setting goals because they believe that they can achieve the goals. So that's one factor to take into place, because a pessimist is not going to be setting goals. And if they do set goals, they're not going to believe that they can achieve them. So that's why optimism is extremely important. Hope is extremely important, because in deep down inside you that you're going to get there. Now, the thing is about goals is that you need to have plans. So you've got to be able to sit down and create a plan, all the steps that you're going to take in order to get to that goal. The thing about plans, though, is that as soon as you write the darn things down, something is going to change. So whereas the goal should be written in stone, it's not going to be the same when you're with the actual tasks within the plan, because the tasks in the plan are going to change. So you've got to be flexible with the plan itself, but you've got to be very solid on that goal. And the thing is, with every goal, you're going to have obstacles. Those are the things that are going to change the plan. But how are you going to face those obstacles? Are you going to lay down and die as soon as you come up against the first one? Or are you going to go through it, around it, over it, underneath it, or just be very non-resistant to it, and which is a good thing as well, because you're not going to get flustered, you're not going to get upset, you're just going to do the best that you can to get around that obstacle and keep heading towards that goal of yours. So that's why the optimism and the hope are extremely important. That's the mindset that you've got to have.
And the wisdom part of the flow, the self-knowledge, that all comes from going through learning about yourself and learning ways to overcome all of those ins and outs on your way to the goal. You said your goal is set in concrete, but the way you achieve the goal may be full of twists and turns and all arounds. Is that right?
Definitely. The thing is about wisdom is that knowing yourself, and so that set of exercises and the work that I have people do definitely shows them that self-knowledge, and it integrates that self-knowledge into their psyche. And because wisdom, that self-knowledge, knowing that you have already been able to overcome obstructions, obstacles, challenges. You've already been able to do that in the past. Well, you can definitely do that now and also in the future. That nothing is going to stop you from achieving your goals. And that is so important. That is why wisdom and that self-knowledge, knowing that you can get what you want, no matter what happens. Even when it's really hard, even when it's really, really bleak, as long as you are so determined to get to where you want to go, no matter what other people are telling you, no matter what negativity is going on outside of you, in the environment, in the economy, whatever it is, there's always going to be another way to achieve that goal. Even if you have setbacks, and every one of us is going to have setbacks while we're trying to get to that thing that we want, there will always be another way. That's why it's so important to be flexible, but to hang on to the knowledge that, yes, I've conquered some of these things before. It's not any different. I'm just going to go for it no matter what.
That really makes a lot of sense to me, that if you start working with an athlete, for example, to help them find out who they are, get their self-knowledge, then if they do have an injury, then they're mentally prepared for the process that they're going to have to go through, and realize it's just a temporary setback. So it would make sense to me that they would work with you, as part of their, I guess, preconditioning as an athlete when they're trying to learn, the mental part of the game, so that in case they do have an injury or a concussion, that they know that they can go through that and in some way. Am I getting the concept correctly?
Yeah, that's a terrific insight, Tammy. It's a very important one, because I actually maintain that, given all things are equal on the physical plane, every athletes have top trainers and that sort of thing. Lots of physical stuff that goes on. They're already doing all the physical stuff that they need to do in order to stay strong and get stronger and go higher and faster. But the thing is that what really underlies all that is their mental ability, and that to me is more 100% than the physical stuff. You can prepare physically all you want, but if you don't believe in your own abilities, you're not going to go anywhere too far. So that's why, if we're only treating the physical symptoms of an injury per se, that's why you get more flare-ups and chronic injuries that never seem to go away. It's because we haven't dealt with the mental emotional part yet. And that's what happens in conventional medicine. They don't meld the two together, and you really have to deal with the mental emotional more than the physical, because in my practice, I have found that as people have felt better, have felt more confident about themselves, that's when the physical stuff starts disappearing. And it's not... And it's not by accident that these things happen. I mean, we can carry that forward to the people who were given really bad diagnoses, terminal cancer, this sort of thing. And people have been told that they would never be able to walk again because they broke their back. I mean, you look at Bruce Lee, what happened to him? He was definitely told that he would never go back and do martial arts again, never mind walk. And, well, he turned things around because he used his mental abilities. I mean, and it's happening to ordinary people. Science, modern medical science, they kind of look at this and they kind of poo-poo it and they can't explain it. But my God, they should definitely be looking at the reasons why ordinary people are turning their terminal cancer diagnoses around and thriving today, or people who are back walking because even though they were told by their doctors that they'd never walk, So definitely the mental part of our life is so much more important than the physical, because the physical always, our bodies follow our minds. Energy follows energy. If it's good energy, then you're going to have good energy in your physical body and in your physical life. I mean, the proof is there. The proof is there.
I really do believe in the mind-body connection and what you said about the positive energy and, things happening like that. You talk about the pillars of brain health in your book, Heal Your Concussion. Can you talk about some of the pillars of brain health?
Well, it really comes down to classical Chinese anatomy, because we talk about these meridians, and there are 6 meridians that are grouped with 2 organs that are interrelated. And so I'll talk about one in particular as an example. It's the liver gallbladder meridian. Now, the liver is considered to be, in Chinese medicine, the bully of the organs, because the liver and the gallbladder are both affected by anger, frustration, resentment, and also by worry. But anger is a very, very strong emotion. Okay. Now, it also happens to be the only emotion that has a negative and a positive attribute to it, because anger being very strong, its negative component can cause a whole bunch of different problems. One of them is that it really blocks off energy from flowing throughout the body. Okay, so it has some very negative effects on us when we have a chronically angry disposition. Okay. So because it can block off the flow of energy, then we have this saying that says that with energy, the hands can grasp and the feet can walk. And I've known that in many people, anger can prevent somebody from being able to, literally, from walking, because it hurts their legs, it hurts their digestive system, so we're not being able to digest very well and bring in nutrients into our body. So that's one way of looking at it. So we're not being able to use the energy from our food very well. And we can have pain in our legs because the liver meridian runs through the lower part of the legs. And so we can have injuries, experience pain and injury in the lower part of our body. The gallbladder itself can be affected by anger, in that we can't make decisions, so it weakens our decision-making possibilities, because one thing about the gallbladder is that even in Western sayings, you have a lot of gall, which means that you have a lot of nerve, which means that you actually have a lot of courage. So you have a lot of nerve to say this or to do that. So you require a lot of courage in order to do that. And anger and frustration and resentment actually blocks that off. But when these things are flowing well, when we are not affected by the anger, when we try not to be angry, but to actually go with the flow of life, then they definitely become pillars, okay? And that means that energy is flowing throughout our body, and we are able to do the things that we want to do. We're able to stand on our own 2 feet. We're able to move forward in our life, and that is all very literal. And we have to take these things literally, because the people who have a lot of patience, who take life in stride, they are the ones who definitely have a very balanced liver and gallbladder system. And these people are able to achieve their goals. So instead of focusing on all their anger, they focus on their goal instead. And they instead use that energy from the anger to get more determined. So that's what I mean by a pillar of brain health.
Wow. So it's basically, in the case like the example you just gave, it has negative and positive aspects. And when you actually start using anger, for example, as in a positive way to become more determined and to get back in the game or get back into life, it becomes a strong pillar. And it actually can help your brain health or your body health and mind health healthier.
Yes, definitely, because, each pillar of brain health is also a barrier to brain health, as I just described. So each, like I said, we got 6 different sets of meridians, which equals 12 meridians and 2 more, one that runs up your body in the back and one that runs down the front of your body. And so each one of these has psychological aspect to them, both negative and positive. I mean, mostly from the negative point of view of what those negative emotions can do to to those meridians. And the fact is that each one of those meridians is connected to another set. So there's a whole cycle. So unlike modern medicine, which tries to put different organ systems into its own silo, you really in reality can't do that, because when the liver gets affected by anger, frustration, it can, because I said it's a bully, it can actually affect your stomach, your digestive system. It can send heat up into your lungs, into your heart. It can send heat into your reproductive system, so because anger does create heat. And in certain situations, you could have fertility problems because of that anger. You could have digestive problems because of that anger. You could have asthma because of that anger. So, or heart problems. I mean, even modern medicine has shown that anger definitely has an effect on your heart health. So slowly but surely, their research is vindicating what we've known in classical Chinese medicine for thousands of years, slowly but surely. However, they haven't got the wisdom yet. They haven't gone far enough in order to know how to use that knowledge. So we do, in fact, have that wisdom. And that's why the medicine works so well, because, as you said at the beginning, we are looking at all the different parts of a person that makes up the whole. And, I want to clarify one thing, because the word holism actually does not include the mental emotional part of a person. The word holism really only focuses on the wholeness of the body, but not the wholeness of the person. I want to make that very clear.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I think that many people, coming from a traditional medicine, layman's perspective, when you talk about the classical Chinese medicine, it all makes such perfect sense to me when you're talking about the mind, the body, and how, for example, the liver, can affect so many other organs. Because if you look at a map of someone's body, and you can see how everything is connected, and it is really interesting how the classical Chinese medicine, the first thing that you said that you would do is start asking someone questions and evaluate their answers so that you can get an idea of who that person is, so that you can help them to heal from whatever it is that's going on with them, which could be a physical injury, or it could be, something else that's going on. So that is really, really interesting. So I wanted to ask you, where can people find out more about Dr. Joanny Liu and your sports medicine services?
Well, it's really easy to find me on the web. You can find me at www.drjoanny, drjoanny.com. So drjoanny.com. And you can get a report about the 5 things you should never do when you have an injury. There's some really good insights in there because I talk about some of the myths that people have been led to believe and which are actually doing more harm than good. And you can definitely find me on Facebook at my Facebook page, Rapid Injury Recovery with Chinese sports psychology. And there I'm on every Thursday on Facebook Live at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also find me on Periscope right after that at 4 p.m. Doing more or less the same talk. It won't be the same talk for sure because other ideas come to mind. And you can also find me on Amazon.com for my best-selling book, Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game.
Thank you. Definitely check out Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game by Dr. Joanny Liu, international best-selling author. And again, can you just repeat the elements of the flow formula for our audience?
Okay, so flow. F stands for freedom. You want freedom. That is your end result. You want freedom to be able to choose and to live the life that you want. L stands for learning. Learning enables you to move forward. You cannot afford to ever stand or sit still. O is for optimism. So being stronger emotionally and physically by increasing your optimism factor. Whenever you've ever achieved anything, you've always had the optimism and the hope that you would achieve it. You were never a pessimist. W stands for wisdom, and wisdom comes from self-knowledge, from self-exploration, from researching yourself. And this actually leads to more optimism because you find out just how great you really are.
Well, thank you, Dr. Joanny.
And thank you so much, Tammy. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for having me on again.
Everyone, if you like this show, please like it and subscribe and share. This is Tammy Pantzer. Go make it a great day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.